Welcome back. If you just joined us, we're taking a look back at the 2009 National Festival of Bread's bread baking contest that was recently held in Wichita, Kansas. And joining me now is Cindy Falk, nutrition educator from Kansas Wheat. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you and Sharon both were able to join us today. Well, let's talk about the contest a little bit. Tell us about that.
Well, our staff and board wanted to take our Kansas Festival of Bread's baking contest to a national level. It was a very popular state competition, and that has been going on since 1990. So it was well established. We took it to a national level, and our very first contest was held this summer in Wichita, Kansas. We had over 500 people enter their bread recipes.
And you ended up with 8 finalists from around the country, right?
We did, and they were so enthusiastic about their original bread recipes, and that was one of the criteria, is that it had to be an original bread recipe.
Well, we're going to be baking the winning recipe a little bit later, but first we're going to bake one that we just really like a lot. You want to tell us the name of this recipe and who it's by?
Well, it is called Sweet Life Sweet Potato Focaccia, but it's made by a baker from Maine.
Falmouth, Maine, right?
Jesse Grierson.
Is there a secret ingredient or something that's really special about it?
Well, I think that would be the sweet potatoes, which are mashed, and then they add a lot of moisture and color and a delicate flavor to the dough, in addition to nutrition, since they're a superfood.
Yes.
So I also like to throw a pinch of my Indian mother-in-law's cayenne on the top. It's pretty, and it adds just a little bit of kick to the flavors.
Okay, Cindy, so what do you need to do to get started making this recipe?
Well, you need to, of course, make sure that your water temperature is between 100 and 110 degrees. Dissolve the yeast, which is 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, along with 1 teaspoon of honey.
So what's next?
Well, we add the rest of the ingredients.
Okay.
We start with olive oil. Can add that. And fresh rosemary. I just picked this out of my garden, so it's a little fresh rosemary, which smells wonderfully. And then she added some Italian spice. And of course we add salt, which will provide some flavor and help controls the action of the yeast. And then a secret ingredient here, cooked mashed sweet potatoes. That's a half of a cup. But that adds such a beautiful color to this dough. And then I like the fact that Jessie did add some whole wheat flour and then Italian flour. Usually I use a KitchenAid mixer, but Jessie made it by hand, so that's how we're doing it today. And we're going to gradually add the all-purpose flour. As you know, when you make a yeast bread, you don't add all of the flour at once. You can see that we're getting to the point where I'm getting enough flour in there. It's kind of forming a ball around that wooden spoon.
Yeah, just like it would if you had it in the mixer, and your dough hook would be, it would be just like this sort of.
So I think we're to the point. Of course, I have to touch the dough.
Don't be afraid to touch the dough. People really need to do that, don't they, when they're baking bread? Get in there and touch it, because that's how you learn to know when something is ready. You know?
And we've got some flour left, but we'll use it when we're kneading it.
Okay.
Use a few little sprinkles of flour on your working surface. Don't add too much flour. And as you can tell, I haven't added too much flour. It's nice and soft. And you just use a light touch and knead the dough with the palms of your hands. And with focaccia, it's more like an artisan type bread. And so it should be kind of an open-celled texture or structure. Once you knead the dough for about 5 to 8 minutes and it's nice and elastic, then you will place it in a lightly greased bowl. Grease the top a little bit of the dough and then cover it with a clean towel and let it rise until it's double. Now it's time to shape the focaccia. Sprinkle a few tablespoons of yellow cornmeal on the baking sheet. This adds some texture to the crust of the bread, and it's very easy to shape this bread because you use your fingertips, and you will just spread this dough out into an 18 by 11-inch rectangle.
So Cindy, is it ready?
Yes, it's rested for about 15 or 20 minutes. You can see it's rising. Now, this is a fun part, and you can use your fingers and help me. Just dimple the dough about a ½ inch. Indentions will work. Sprinkling on some chopped fresh garlic, and then some more of the fresh rosemary, and then Asiago cheese, or you could use any type of cheese. She chose Asiago cheese. Just a few tablespoons. Of course, I like cheese, so I probably add a few more. And then go ahead.
Oh, okay. This is the cayenne.
And just add as much as you like.
Okay, and then the pepper.
Freshly ground black pepper. This would just be a great party bread, wouldn't it?
Oh,
with all
absolutely.
The spices, a glass of wine or a beverage. It'd be a great hors d'oeuvre.
Oh, I'm already planning to make it for a party. It's a great bread.
We just sprinkle a little bit of olive oil on it, just a few tablespoons. Just drizzle, and
this goes in then, and it goes in the oven at what temperature?
400 degrees.
And it bakes for how long?
15 to 20 minutes.
We'll put that in the oven in just a second, but we're going to go to break. But stay with us for the 2009 National Festival of Bread's Bread Baking Contest winner. Welcome back. I'm here with nutrition educator Cindy Falk from Kansas Wheat, and soon we're going to be baking the 2009 winner of the National Festival of Bread's Bread Baking Contest. But before we bake that recipe, Cindy, let's go see the winner as Mr. Food announces the winning contestant.
Diana Lara for her tomato.
So Cindy, what made Diana's recipe a winner?
Well, I was sitting in the judges' room, so I heard all their comments, and I totally agreed with them. First of all, they gave 45 out of 45 points for taste and flavor. Then she won 10 out of 10 points for the shape. It's shaped in a figure 8 shape, and it's just very unusual and beautiful. And several of their comments were that this is a bread that people would try more than once, and I agree. It's such a wonderful bread that you'd want to try it again. So it's going to be a very popular recipe, I know that.
Oh, I think so too. In fact, let's get Diana's comments about her recipe.
It's an Italian recipe. My mother-in-law is Italian, so I always say I'm Italian by marriage. And so I baked this bread kind of as a compliment to her. But it's called tomato, basil, and garlic-filled pan bianco. People always ask, what's pan bianco? And it means plain white. So it's a plain white bread, and it has these beautiful swirls of vegetables and herbs in there.
So Cindy, shall we make the winning bread?
Yes.
So what do we do first?
Well, dissolve the yeast in lukewarm water, and then add a little bit of sugar with it, and let that set for about 10 minutes. And you can see that it's starting to bubble, and it's ready to go. We'll add the milk, and Diana chose to use olive oil for her fat in the recipe, and 2 eggs, salt for some more flavor, and we're going to just turn that on and let that blend a few seconds.
Okay.
Let's just gradually add enough flour to form a soft dough, and then I put on the dough hook and set the timer for about 8 to 10 minutes. After the dough has kneaded for 8 to 10 minutes, go ahead and place it in a lightly greased bowl and then cover it up with a towel and let it rise until it's double, and this takes about an hour. Once the dough has risen, then you punch it down, and I like to divide it in half because this makes 2 loaves, and then cover it up for about 10 minutes with a towel and let it rest so it's easier to roll out.
Yes.
And then you roll it into a 8.5 by 22-inch rectangle, okay? I'll take half of the cheese. This is Italian cheese, and you just sprinkle that on the dough, kind of like you're making cinnamon rolls. And then we'll add the sun-dried tomatoes. And the important step is to drain these thoroughly and then lay them on a paper towel, and then I use the kitchen shears to chop them up. And then sprinkle a little bit of garlic powder on, and then some more fresh basil from my garden. Chop that up pretty fine.
Look at that.
So you start from the long edge and you roll it up tightly. And as you can see, Jayni, or feel, actually, it's a very nice dough to work with.
Yeah, it's really a nice soft texture.
And so you pinch.
Okay, pinch.
Using your fingertips, make sure you seal the edges really well. So place the seam side down. Start a 1/2 inch in and clip using your kitchen shears about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch deep. And this will open up that.
This is how you get that beautiful center. Okay.
And then stop about a 1/2 inch from the end. And then we form an S shape on the baking sheet. And then take the ends and hook them together underneath and pinch them with your fingertips so they hold together when it's rising and in the baking stage. We have to cover it up and let it rise until it's almost double.
Okay,
and then
what
bake
happens?
it at 350 for about 18 or 20 minutes. And I think the critical thing about this bread is the baking of it, because it has a lot of fat in it and the toppings, and it browns really fast. So you need to tint the loaf about 15 or 20 minutes after into the baking stage. So remember to take some aluminum foil and tint it.
And we have the winning recipe in front of us. This is tomato, basil, and garlic-filled pane bianco, right?
Yes.
By Diana Wara. And after the big win, we got to interview Diana for a few minutes. Tell me how it feels to be the winner.
It's very exciting. I mean, I can't even tell you. I am so thrilled. $2,000, a trip to Vermont. I already have this wonderful trip to Kansas. It's just amazing. Just amazing.
For recipes seen on today's show, visit our website at freestatestudios.com. Welcome back. As you can see, we've been baking a lot of bread today, and so let's take a look at all of the breads that you two baked for us today. Sharon, you started with the everyday bread and gave us a lesson on bread baking, and then Cindy, you baked the sweet potato focaccia. It was a contest recipe by Jesse Grierson, and then the winning recipe of the 2009 National Festival of Breads bread baking contest was Diana Wara for her tomato and basil and garlic filled pane bianco.
Yes.
All great recipes.
Delicious.
Absolutely. Well, I'll ask you, Cindy, who sponsored this contest and these events?
The Festival of Breads was sponsored by Kansas Wheat in our offices in Manhattan, Kansas, and King Arthur Flour. So those were the two major sponsors.
And now, Sharon, you're from the Home Baking Association, so do you want to say, what would you say to somebody who wants to learn how to bake bread? If you had any piece of advice, what would it be?
Start. It's just not that hard. You can do it. And if you need help, you got Jayni, you got kansaswheat.org, and you got homebaking.org.
Okay, so there's the websites and two good resources to go to if you want to know anything about wheat or anything about baking bread. They can be found on your websites, right? Okay. Well, I want to thank you two for joining me today. I want to thank Kansas Wheat. We had such a fabulous time at the festival, and we hope you'll go out, bake some bread, and we'll see you next time. Jayni's Kitchen is brought to you by the Community Mercantile. Get the fresh local food you love at the Merc.